I was able to sell my company before I turned 30. And I feel very fortunate because there are not so many people who get this opportunity. The first thing I'll say is that a lot of people believe that Dr. Vaidya's was a family business. The reality of Dr. Vaidya's wasn't that it's a family business. We made a conscious perception to make you feel that it was a very old business. The name Dr. Vaidya's was coined by me. My dada just ran a clinic called Dr. Vaidya's Clinic, which he inherited from his father. Why do people think Dr. Vaidya's is a legacy business? Because actually it is 150 years of my family's legacy. And so we made it a clear point to try to tell everybody that, by the way, this is a old legacy. It's got a lot of years backing in, and it is something that has a lot of research backing in that helped us build trust. But the reality is I'm a startup entrepreneur. I started the company in October 2016 and I took it to exit in April 2021. I'm not hiding my identity that I've not had this sheltered childhood. But, and I'm also not hiding the fact that I got amazing exposure with it. I went to some of the best schools, colleges, and got the best educational exposure. But a startup really shows you the real world very, very fast, right? So when we started Dr. Vaidya's in October 2016, all of this Ivy League education, private equity job, best schools, all of that shelter went away when I went into my first supplier meeting. And he just looked at me and he said, one, please send your boss. Because at that time I was 24 and a half and I couldn't even grow, and I still can't, by the way, grow a proper mustache and beard. So he was like, in the Ayurveda industry, there's no 24 and a half year old coming here to have a conversation with me. I grew up with juvenile bronchitis. I suffered from asthma from age 2. I grew up with pumps, nebulizers, inhalers and steroids. I was the only kid who couldn't play cricket and football while my friends were playing it growing up. My grandfather got me an Ayurvedic treatment very early, and at age 15, I was cured of asthma using Ayurvedic formulations and medicine. And so I started believing in the science more than just being family legacy. I spent a lot of time with my grandfather while growing up. I transcribed our family formulations from scriptures to the computer. In the US, other than my education, I saw the proliferation of yoga. I saw yoga mats, yoga gyms, yoga apparel, Lululemon create a multi-billion-dollar industry in the US. And I started to think to myself, it's amazing that it's global, but it's not so amazing that my Dutch friend is teaching me yoga. It's not so amazing that Indian companies haven't taken yoga to the world. I remember calling my granddad from campus and saying, hey, we can't let the same happen with Ayurveda. So that's the backstory. The moment is, it was my dad's 50th birthday. By this time, my grandfather had passed, April 7, 2016. There was a small party in his office. I was still working in private equity at the time. And then I gave a speech on my dad at this event. And by this time, my grandfather's clinic was running as a dispensary. He had passed away. His nurse and a few of his old team members were taking care of the clinic for only the patients who would come in with his prescriptions. And after this speech I gave, a bunch of people came up to me, but I remember very vividly, she came up to me and she said, you talk about your dad, but with a tear in her eyes, she said, are you going to let your grandfather's legacy die? And at that point, I was like, there is no way that I'm going to do this. I'm 24 and a half. What's the worst that can happen? I'll try and I'll fail. But if this legacy skips 2 generations, it dies. My time at Brown was the best 4 years of my life. I was a kid who went from Bombay. There were kids who came from 70, 80 countries to that university, other than the American kids. So that environment, that atmosphere of happiness, camaraderie, family, I've rarely seen it in any place. There's a reason Brown is called the happiest campus in the world, and I truly felt it. I ran the international organization. That was a great experience in leadership. Unlike a lot of people who were graduating in the era of 2013, I did not even apply for a job in the US. Why didn't I apply for a job in the US? Because some part of me, and I'm a very patriotic person. I wear this band with the Indian flag on my hand. I've been wearing it for the last 13 years. One of my friends in college gave it to me. Whatever I did, I felt like I had this special exposure that a lot of people in our country didn't have. And so my job was to come back to India and really do something. After we sold our company for a short period, Trisha and I thought, okay, now we have like no baggage as such, right? It's very rare in life to have a situation where you can literally pick up your bags and move anywhere. And so we actively considered moving out of India, and because she used to live in London, after her college experience. We went to London for a month. And I really enjoyed the first 2 or 3 weeks. But after 3 weeks, I realized that this is the only place in the world that I can live. And I'm deeply rooted. But I see, given what's happening across India, over the next decade, we will become a global epicenter. And so we will see a lot of these foreign universities and already starting. I know Brown has a few partnerships in India, partner with Indian universities. I was able to sell my company before I turned 30. And I feel very fortunate because there are not so many people who get this opportunity. What happened after that was, to be honest, we had a blank slate and we had a lot of experience and learnings and insights that we wanted to share with founders. And a lot of founders started reaching out. And so we would give 12 hours in our calendar for founders for just no holds barred conversations, just helping, because we pretty much had nothing to do in that time. I do 12 conversations a week, which sort of equates to at least 600 conversations on a yearly basis. All of this taught me that there is something we need to share, but that needs to be done at scale as well. Right? And so we had the ability to have our own capital. So we started investing in companies. That's translated to more than 90 angel investments now in the last about 18-20 months. My goal then became, I built a company and I built a company reasonably well. My passion now, or what drives me, is can I enable the next 1,000 founders to be able to do something similar to what I did? And so VC seemed like the best structured way to do this. It's been sort of 24-ish months as an investor. And in these 24 months, I can say I've met more than 1,000 founders across various spaces: consumer brands, consumer technology, enablers, platforms, B2B SaaS, space tech, agri-tech, deep tech, fintech. I was in Indore. I met this really interesting company in the education space for kids. And the founder said something to me which stuck with me. And he said, "Sir, we are doing 5 lakhs a month. It's going very well. We have this small team of 10, 11 people. And we're trying to hit 25 lakhs a month and then move out of Indore." And I was like, "Why would you move out of Indore? This co-working space is great. You have a great team. You have great infrastructure." He's like, "Yeah, after that, to be honest, we'll have nobody to speak to, no ecosystem here. Talent will be a challenge, and so we'll leave." It means that all of us are not doing our job. I think India will be built if there are many more hubs like Bombay, Delhi and Bangalore created. And so I'm very passionate. I was in Surat this weekend. I spent time in Indore. I spent time in Chandigarh. I spent a lot of time in Calcutta. I've spent a lot of time in all of these cities outside the top 10 cities of India to try to foster this sort of spirit of entrepreneurship and startups. Because I think that only once India has 20-30 hubs will we really become a global superpower in the startup space. We run like any other traditional family office where we invest across asset classes. So I do this with my dad and my brother. And so we invest in everything from a government bond and a fixed deposit to an angel investment and everything in between. I think each person has to figure out their risk appetite, and we went through a scientific process after we sold Dr. Vaidya's to then say, hey, we need to now start structuring our investments. And we went through a scientific process to understand our risk appetite and then do a sort of portfolio allocation across asset classes to diversify risk. I actually met Saurabh through a friend and I thought his background was absolutely fantastic. And then he told me about what he was building. As risky as your risk appetite will be, you will still want to invest in fixed income instruments. It may be 20%, 30%, 50% for us as a family in fixed income instruments. And there was no platform, no product that talked to you as a new age consumer about this. And so as a lot would be built in equity, there would be some companies coming up in the fixed income space. And I think the way Saurabh is approaching the problem is a very interesting one. It's a product I would use. People should understand what they're investing in and why they're investing. And I think platforms like these can actually democratize learning and make people take better decisions. And like we did with Ayurveda, we repackaged and rebranded to appeal to a modern consumer. I hope Stable Money can do the same.